we have to go live.
Hello and welcome. Tuesday, the new time. And I don't even know what time it is in your part of the world. And for me, my time will be changing. The only one who is staying constant is going to be Mary
Yes, for a while that will be.
for a while until I settle back down. So, what are we going to talk about today? What is oneness? And as I've posted, I have been reading again Mutant Message Down Under, and I know I'm aware that there is a lot of controversy about it. And yet, there was something in the book that struck me. Her being unable to find water, she was uh, told, become the energy of water. And that really because finding water, find it in the one with the water and you will find it. So how much are we talking about oneness, but really not including the energy to be one with? And how does that impact your life? It really made me stop in my tracks and say, okay, where am I going into my head? Where am I perceiving the energy of something? And isn't, in a way, communion with another being, because even molecules are conscious, isn't there communion taking place on an energetic level? How do
Yeah.
you see it, Marianne?
Yeah, for me, that's clear. The oneness for me is really energetically. And listening to you, what came up for me was, oh, yes, that's what I am allowing to be the oneness when I am riding on what normally will become a book, let us say. But yeah, I'm doing it my way. And it is
Mhm.
most of the time in the morning, I write some stuff down. And last week, I started to reread what I have written down to go and see what was gone. But normally, I use glasses to write down things or to read. But in the morning, in my bed, I mostly didn't use my glasses. It was just writing the energy down,
Mhm.
flowing through my pen in a way of speaking, and reading it again several times. There were sentences and words that I thought, huh, what did I wrote down? What did I wrote down? And every time when I tapped into the energy through only those curls I could see, but tapping into the energy, the words came back and I could write them properly down.
Mm.
And when I heard you speaking, it was like, oh, yeah, but there is something I was being. And is that being then at that moment the oneness with the molecules that, yeah, with that energy that is coming
Mhm.
up?
Yeah.
As though, as you mentioned it also, Karina, that how many of the human races are head trippers? And
It's the valuable product.
it's the valuable
Real estate
product.
up there.
Yeah, yeah. And somehow I acknowledge that perhaps I was even a heart tripper with acute amount of head tripping together. So it's always going and look out for what matches,
Yeah.
and then thinking. I realize now that for a long time I thought is also going to the oneness when you match, in this case, the heart tripping and the head tripping. Then it's coming together. That's also oneness, but it's nothing about the oneness we are speaking about now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it that you mentioned that even as I experienced also in the spiritual world, going for the oneness, towards the oneness, is what is defined as when that and that matches, then there is oneness.
Um, you saying that brings up uh, why, for some reason, I never liked the word oneness, especially when I was, in my metaphysical spiritual phase, because it felt like a blob of slime.
Mm-hmm.
Two blobs of
Yeah.
slime were put together and now they were oneness.
Yeah.
Ugh, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what if true oneness is you being you, me being me, celebrating the differences that we have, while also being able to be in communion with each other without necessarily seeing each other, without
Yeah.
necessarily being on the phone with each other, that we can tap. You have a unique energy. I have a unique energy. Everybody has a unique energy. And being able to tap into that unique energy is what creates oneness from my perspective now.
Yeah. And is it also, as though I see it that way, that allowance is required to
Yes.
be one? Yeah.
Yeah. That I do not, I mean, in a sense, it's, I cannot be one with something that I'm judging.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
And if I have any judgments about you, then it becomes more and the more then it becomes difficult, and the more judgments I have about somebody, the more difficult it is to tap into their energy, because automatically there is the rejection of the other, the separation from the other that comes up. And how can you be separated while being one?
Yeah.
uh,
But even what you are saying, it is also, you can tap in, but do you tap in that what you judge? So
yeah,
you can
yeah,
never receive everything. Yeah.
yeah,
And there is also that difference, as in accepting an allowance for me is even accepting includes still, that's how I see it lately, includes still judgment, definition, or some
yeah,
reactions, some, there is still energies who are covering up things. So yeah, with acceptance also there isn't oneness.
yeah. I accept my judgment of you, so to speak.
Thank you, Karina.
And you know that you wasn't personal.
That's what I want to say. Oh, that's weird because when we are together and even not are, if we are not together, because yeah, you are quite far away from me, there is, that's what I love about what we can create together is that there is allowance, there is no judgment, there is
Mm-hmm.
space, there is oneness, and nevertheless, you are completely different than I am.
Yeah.
And it is there, and it creates and it generates, and there is no need for judgment.
And isn't that how the earth operates?
Mhm.
Animals don't judge each other,
Mm.
plants don't judge each other. Oh, you are greater, you are lesser than, you're faster, you're slower, whatever it is. There is no, it just
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And the beauty is in the diversity.
That's Karina. It looks like the diversity being the difference is not really fully acknowledged the contribution that is.
Uh, Absolutely agreed. And just on a very simple uh, statement is, how boring would the world be if everybody would be the same? I mean,
Yeah.
it would be so utterly boring for me.
Yes, I
I
enjoy
mean,
your boredness.
to just bring it down to, you know, you are different, and that is what makes the conversation rich.
Yeah,
But otherwise, I could just talk to myself. Though I
yeah,
wouldn't get any new awareness, new insight, new whatever. And even if I don't agree with what you say, I could still, that's an interesting perspective.
yeah, yeah. And even that, because, yeah, we can speak easily as though some could judge, yeah, but the both of you have the same interests, the both of you are walking in the same direction, or whatever it can be judged as. But even a conversation in allowance with someone who is operating from a really small space place,
Mm-hmm.
while I am more space, even that can be interesting and
Mm-hmm.
can allow me to become more clear about I still think, function, react, or whatever it is. So, in allowance of everything, being in allowance of everything is also something that can generate so far beyond what we think is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which earlier I would cut off those people. And it's not that I'm looking forward to people where I don't have connection or communion or having the same interests, having conversations a lot. It's not that I'm looking for it. The difference is now that I can be in allowance and I can have a conversation as though knowing what is required, what can they hear, what can they receive, and no longer diminishing myself, no longer going in the reaction to them or in the
Mm-hmm.
polarity of, because that's what we are indirectly doing also, is going in the right and wrong, which is not in allowance. So, yeah, being more present and questioning what is true oneness led me also to explore this other side of what I earlier would call not that interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and for me, um, it really boils down to what is, for instance, what somebody says or what I read evoking in me, and how does that enrich my ability to perceive something, because it may get me out of my track of how I look at something. And there is beauty in that. And it doesn't matter if I, in the end, agree with that or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And what
know?
I experienced also in a series that I'm doing is about so many things we think we have to discover, we think we have to unhide, which in truth we always were that energy, but because of the judgments, because of what we
Mm-hmm.
yeah, buy as real and true, it
Yeah.
looks like it is hidden. And it is, in a way, hidden under all those things. And at the same time, it's vivid because we are it, but we go so against ourselves.
Yeah.
And there it starts all already there. Are we willing be one with our own molecules? The molecules of
Yeah.
my existence with my body.
Yeah.
There it starts already, yeah.
Yeah. And
And it becomes more and more interesting. Yes, go on.
and I just wanted to clarify, the reason it's hidden is because other people may judge it, or we judge certain character traits we have or certain things that we do, and therefore push them outside of our immediate
Mm,
sphere of
yeah,
visibility. We
yeah,
sort of hide them.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
sort of, oh no, I'm not looking at you. No, I'm not looking at you. And if we
yeah,
can stop that and be present with anything and everything, how much more ease can we have?
yeah. Yeah, Karina. Completely with you here. Yeah. And also if we would stop searching, what could we see that is really in front of us?
Yeah. What if we
That's
could go from searching to finding?
oh yeah, okay. Then the fun is away. If you don't have to search. You don't search, so you don't find. So there is no fun of the finding aspect.
No, there is a lot of fun, because does finding require searching?
No, for me not. For
Yeah,
me not.
that's what I mean is there's still that fun aspect, because, oh, I didn't know that was there,
Yeah.
because we
As it
stumble
is
across it.
even more fun when you
Yeah,
don't search. It is even more fun. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, ease. Who wants to have it ease?
And I remember well when I had ease, and the thought hit me as, wow, that was easy. And I realized, with having that thought implicitly, I'm not necessarily looking for ease.
Yeah. 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 It is something that hits me. Hmm, that hits me so, and then also as though, what is it that I'm searching,
Mm-hmm.
which I think if I'm searching it, it bring me more ease, while instead, if I'm not searching, there is a lot more ease to
Yeah.
acknowledge, to find. Yeah, yeah,
But
and
how much
still,
have we? Sorry.
Go, go, go.
How much have we internalized? No pain, no gain.
Yeah, yeah. That's the the motivation
Yeah,
we grew up with that.
yeah,
Because if there is no pain, there is no existence. And even the word, the growing pain, it is required when you grow up to go through growing pains. That's what I grew up with. The growing pain, the pain of
mm-hmm.
growing, whatever that meant. But it is an energy that's coming up now. I out of the blue. But it is. It looks like when it is ease, implicity underneath, there is a belief that you don't grow.
Nope.
And even that, Karina, what is growing? As now, lately, the latest 2, 3 years, not growing. I'm not that much speaking about growth and growing, but more expanding,
Yeah.
which is a
Or
complete other,
changing.
yeah, it's a complete other energy. And perhaps it came from that idea that I grew up with the growing pain and not longer choosing pain because there is a knowing that it can be ease. Yeah,
And how much have we associated change with being painful?
yeah, also, and hard and difficult
Yeah,
and force.
yeah.
Yeah, that force energy. As I tap in now, as a sudden, I tapped in a few trees here nearby, as showing me the force. You can have force of the mental construct and force of the, yeah, of a power which is abuse, that kind of force. But there
Mm-hmm.
is also a force with a force of being, a force of existence, a force of knowing, a force of, yeah, the force of generating. That's what the trees as a sudden showed me, like, yeah. So how much did we interpret force as something that it isn't?
How much? And what just popped for me was use the force, Luke. It's not the force that you were talking about, but it's
Yeah,
the energy field
yeah,
that is available to us
yeah,
if we choose to tap into.
yeah. And even what brings up now with this energy also from the force is drawing me back to my childhood. It's so often misinterpreted at that time as stubborn, as, oh, you aren't putting one step aside. You, when you put something in your head, you go for it, and that's the interpretation they had of what they sensed, maybe the force I was being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, it just the the force you were being, or was it the fact that they couldn't control you?
Good question. Oh, this is really light. This lighten up really. Yeah.
Because
Oh,
if we
yeah.
use the force of the energy field that we are aware of, that we have tapped into, then it doesn't matter what somebody else says, we will go for it. We will use the force.
And this
But
brings
when we use
something,
the force, no control by somebody else.
And this is so light, Karina, because it brings something else in. As I became aware of 2, 3 hours ago, becoming aware of that, it was like I have one brother, the others were similar, but one brother who always said, yeah, but you are so easily manipulated and you believe everything and everyone, etc., 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 which wasn't true for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I became aware a few hours ago, wow, isn't that interesting that he uses that? Perhaps now, with what you are saying, the control, to try to control me again, while as I'm looking back, I choose things where no one was happy with or thought or saying, are you crazy? Are you going to do that? Or, you know, always going and choosing for myself what I knew was true for me, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
these are the choices I have to make. So those two things didn't go together, but from the aspect you mentioned now, was it and not receiving the force, or I'm not remember the words you used, of was it because they couldn't control me? It is really light, that energy of control and not controlling. Yeah.
I mean, if you
Wow.
really look at the fact, isn't judgment a way to control others?
Yeah. And just a question, do we also judgment to control ourselves? Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
what if we use judgment to control ourselves to fit in,
Yeah. That. Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
not rock the
Yeah.
boat, to not upset the apple cart, as they say, to not upset other people because we fit
Yeah.
in.
Oh wow. Something pops up also now, the wilderness in nature is so judged as a wrongness because they can't control it.
Mm-hmm. And
And
how
at the
much do we
same
try to
time,
order nature?
yeah, completely. And at the same time, if you see the diversity in nature, whether it is the wilderness or yeah, just nature, diversity in nature. And it is what you are saying. It is human beings want to control
Hmm?
everything, not only the weather, everything.
And in all honesty, right now, I wouldn't mind controlling the weather a little bit because having consistently 100 or more is not my kind of tea.
But truth, Karina, is it controlling the weather or is it requesting the weather?
Point well taken, yes.
Because
Yeah.
there is no wrong and right. That yeah, and I have the experience and I did that without point of view, asking, requesting the weather as
Yeah.
though what I would have liked more if yeah, it's a request. It's not that you have to do what I'm telling you and blah 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 blah. That's a control point. But yeah, when we request, it can happen also from the oneness there we be, because the weather has no
And
point of view.
the weather has no point of view. And there there are several things that are popping for me right now. Is first of all, uh, can I be an allowance of whatever the weather is and make a request, like it's hot right now, make request, could it be cooler? But being in allowance, how much can my energy then also change and adapt to the heat? Because if I fight the heat, it gets even hotter.
Yeah. And what you are saying, adjust and adapt with your body, isn't it then a sense of more cool, that it is more cool,
Yeah,
even though the temperature, yeah, that it's the requesting, yeah, request and be one, be present, be one, and then
yeah, yeah.
all the molecules can move, can, yeah, everything
And how,
can change.
and talking about the heat, I mean, right now I'm becoming aware of, if I see 60 degrees, I have a certain association. Oh, that is wonderful. If I see 70, 80,
Mhm.
90, 100, how much do I go into conclusion this is what it is,
Yeah,
instead of just allowing it to be and not fighting it?
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, fighting, Karina, that's life. You fight against everything. Yeah, sorry, you have to continue to
So,
fight.
so we should put on our tombstones, he or she fought well.
Yes, instead of live well. That's an idea. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure I'm going along with you with that to create that, but hey, it's an idea.
Yeah, it's just acknowledging what is.
And this brings also now, because I'm living here in an area with a lot of olive trees, which can become also really old, if they weren't, uh, if they weren't in allowance or being in oneness and choosing fight, would it be possible to become as old as they can be? As
Yeah,
sometimes we see those
yeah.
trees, really, it's mind blowing that there are a lot of um, what do you call it? Uh, oh fuck! Going into the ground,
The roots.
the roots. I'm seeing always the trunk, but then the roots are big and wide and going open, and then the crown is also really vivid. Then the trunk in between, sometimes it's nearly gone, standing there with yeah, not even a round trunk. It's only like, how would I explain it? Yeah, perhaps you have seen photos of this, graphics of this, but it is so wonderful. And it blew my mind more than once away as seeing like, what are we talking about in our lives? What do we see
Hmm.
as a problem? What do we create for standing up and being acknowledged or seen or whatever?
Yeah.
As here, no matter what, the tree never gave up. The tree never
Hmm.
gave in. Whatever happened in the field there,
Yeah.
it grew, it generated, even it looks like it was dying. It never died. And all those energies they're in, I received so much of them already as invitation also, or I received them as an invitation. Perhaps it's that. But it is an invitation at the same time. It is really inviting me, throwing me back inwards and have a look. What am I choosing? Am I also willing to be that different, even if others think and judge me as not worthy,
Mm,
judging me as not strong, as not living, or whatever they can judge me, but going on knowing that I am living, that I am the difference I came to be, and I
yeah.
can give the fruit because it is still giving fruit.
What you're saying right now is one thing that really struck me on my drive up to now is how many dead trees there are along the road. And it's even stretches. And I have, previously driving through the mountains in Colorado, um, such a high percentage of the forest is dead. And yes, there are the beetles, and there are all the biological reasons of why this is the case. And I'm sitting now with the question, what is that? What is the implicit message? What is contained there?
Mm.
And quick pop-ups there's two quick pop-ups that come for me is a our lack of taking care of,
Mm-hmm.
and the other thing is a warning: the climate is changing. Like the beetles that have been infesting the forests, part of the infestation is so big, quote unquote, is because the winters are not cold enough anymore that would kill off the insects. And is there a right and a wrong, or is there just we need to be in allowance for that and work with it?
And at the same time, Karina, there is also another side that pops for me in this
Mhm.
question or sitting with that is what is through communication those dead trees are bringing us, because there is also a knowing, Karina, that there is a lot messing up by people with programs and instruments
Mhm.
and whatever they create to us people. Let us believe that it is a natural climate change, which more and more by being present with everything looks like is it really the climate change we think or they want us to believe there is, as seen now in this, is it really a natural temperature or is it a manufactured and somehow forced energy? And the trees are dead. But are they truly dead? Because what if those trees are truly in allowance and
Yes.
show up as looking fat or start to generate again when this this manufactured thing is ending. And is that the true change that is coming? That we, for a long, long time, are sub influence of all those manufactured interference with the weather. And is it that truly that is in front of us that we finally can become one with true nature, our nature, the nature, planet, planets, universes, bodies?
There is something interesting that just popped for me is if we look at Earth history, Earth has gone through multiple
Mm.
climate changes. If just for
Yeah,
the sake of keeping the same name, I mean, there's been hot periods, there's been really cold periods.
yeah,
Um, and I am aware that there are people who are trying to create weather for their purposes. And what if all of that, what if the Earth is going through a climate change?
mm-hmm.
Because it's been relatively, if we just look from Earth history, it's been relatively quiet, not much going
Mm-hmm.
on. Um, that is manipulated by people to create fear,
Yeah,
and people who are afraid are a lot easier to govern. And I mean,
yeah,
not from a government necessarily perspective, but maybe I should say to rule,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And
That's
it is also the invitation by the Earth to say, you can be with it and we can work together.
yeah, yeah. That's a bit what I'm speaking about is the climate change, the true climate change.
Mm-hmm.
What if that is completely something different than what they
Yeah,
want us to believe?
yeah.
And
So
is that a lot showing us in nature now with in several ways because you are in nature now, driving through it, even though it is a lot of dryness. If I correct with the situation, the location where you're driving through, but now coming in parts in forests or even parks with a lot of green, it looks like the grass looks different. Where there is freedom, they're showing up so much more, yeah, the diversity in everything that is showing up, and even the birds, um, insects somehow, and it can be me that is in a different way with them. But what happens lately is that even big animals with more ease coming towards, yeah, me, human, as communication also there is different now. There is, yeah, there is so much more changing, and that's about, that is also the climate change, and we are changing, but not even not for a second nearly
mm-hmm.
as what they want us to believe
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh wow,
And
Karina.
I remember well that ages ago, I mean, probably 20 years ago, I used the way an animal, be it a dog or a horse, would approach me to gauge on what kind of a mood I was in.
Mm-hmm.
If they
Yeah.
would come, then I was in a good, acceptable, non uh, pushing away kind of energy. And there were the times when I was just in a crappy mood and they would come up, stop, and go away,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
even if you speak about this, that crappy mood, that is a mood which includes so much judgment, so much separation, so much of everything of that, so far away from the oneness.
Yep,
And
yep,
that is becoming more clear for me, as though we were so many times already one with everything, but we dismissed it because of what we grow up with, the fight and the intensity and the
yeah,
pain. That is
yeah,
more important. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow. We are on, and we can go on.
We can't go on and on. And, we may decide to continue that, make it a part two next week, or we may totally shift the subject.
Yeah. And that, because oneness is such a subject that leads everywhere, because
Yeah,
yeah, we can explore it everywhere. And I found it really interesting now with the energies you can bring in due to the travel you are doing. So
yeah.
yeah, let's see what pops up next week.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
Have a nice drive again, a nice time, an
I will
exploring
hit the
time,
road. Yeah.
a receiving time, Karina, a receiving time. See you next week.
See you next week. Take care. Bye bye.